Man, the Sega Genesis. What an absolutely incredible video game console. I just feel like it just doesn't get the credit it deserves. There's so many great games for this system, and it just gets overshadowed by the Super Nintendo. And in some regards, I get that. I mean, I love the Super Nintendo, but the Genesis, I feel like it has a lot going for it. So in this video, I'm going to be showcasing 8 Sega Genesis games that I think are personally quite nifty. Some of these are pretty niche, but some of them are pretty well known in the Genesis library. I don't want to go like too mainstream. Like, I am not showcasing like the Streets of Rage games or something. Like, you know, those are great games, but they're also pretty popular, all things considered. And I'm not going to show like Sonic or anything, of course, because that's just a low-hanging fruit. So without further ado, let's check out some of these games. First game up, we've got Alicia Dragoon. This is a 2D side-scroller developed by Game Arts. Now, Game Arts is more well-known for games like Lunar and Grandia, which are RPGs. This is one of the times they made a 2D side-scroller, and the art was done by Gainax, the art and the story. Now, Gainax, they've made the greatest anime of all time, Neon Genesis Evangelion. They also did Fooly Cooly and Kare Kano for like the 10 people who know what that show is. Shout outs to you guys. But like I said before, Alicia Dragoon is a 2D side scroller. Yeah, this game, it stars Alicia, obviously, and she has this like laser attack, and it like locks onto the enemies, and that laser attack can actually be charged up to do this whole like big thing across the screen. It like wipes out all the enemies at once. The gameplay is super fun. There's also little sidekicks, so there's like a dragon and a couple other variants of not enemies, little sidekicks, and they can help you a lot throughout the game, but they can actually die in the game, which is pretty crazy in my opinion. It says like in the little like box, it just says dead, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is morbid. The gameplay of this game is super fun, but it is super hard. I mean, there's enemies coming at you all the time. Like, even in like the first level of the game, I love the first level. The first level, the music is probably my favorite song in the whole game. But that first level, even that one's pretty hard. It's kind of crazy. I couldn't even get past the 3rd level without using a cheat code. I mean, it's truly crazy, but I love the atmosphere and the music, like I said, with the first level. I haven't gotten like super far into the game, like I said, but yeah, Alicia Dragoon is a great game. Now here we have one of my favorite Sega Genesis games of all time. This is Rocket Knight Adventures by Konami. Oh my gosh, Rocket Knight Adventures is a masterpiece. It is one of the greatest 16-bit platformers ever made. It is so good. This game came out during the craze of the mascot platformer type game. And, that obviously started with Sonic and I guess technically Mario, but it really boomed when Sonic came out. And this is without a doubt one of the best to ever come from that trend. I mean, like, the control of this game is 10 out of 10. It's so snappy. I love using Sparkster's blade. Yeah, Sparkster, that's his name. That's the character, the knight that you play as, the Rocket Knight that you play as. He is a possum. And he's awesome. He's not Awesome Possum, but he's a lot more awesome than Awesome Possum, let's just be real. The gameplay is so snappy. The graphics of the game are really good. It looks very cartoony. It could easily be like a Saturday morning cartoon. I mean, I don't know if that would have been successful, I don't know, but the graphics atmosphere is amazing. Again, it is, I guess in some ways it is pretty typical. I mean, the whole plot of the game is you're just saving the queen the princess, whatever, and yeah, so it's pretty basic in that regard, but the game is just, it's so strong. I love the music as well. It's so jolly and it's epic, all right? It has some epic music. This game is pretty hard, but it's not that hard compared to some other games. You know, I've only gotten to the final level like once, but the fact that I've gotten there shows that, hey, you can probably be pretty successful in this game as well. I like the challenge of the game. I'm not complaining at all. It is a good difficulty balance. This is just a game that I can always come back to, and I know I'm gonna have at least a decent time, but most of the time I'm having just a wonderful time playing it. It is amazing. Here we have Ranger X for the Sega Genesis, and yeah, this game's pretty awesome. This game is a run and gun game developed by GAU Entertainment. I've never heard of these guys ever. It looks like the most notable game they've made. I really couldn't find much else about these guys, but hey, they made a banger with Ranger X. This game, you play as a mech. And like I said, it's a run and gun, but you play as this mech, and ooh, it's just awesome. It is a very complicated control scheme. You're technically playing two characters, so you have the main mech, I guess is just called the Ranger X, I don't know, and then there's this little car that you control at the bottom. I guess it would just be a car. I don't really know what it is, but it's pretty cool. You can ride on it. You can go inside of it. And this game actually heavily uses the 6-button controller. Though you don't have to use the 6-button controller. I think you can play this game without the 6-button controller. I'm not sure, but definitely play it with the 6-button controller because the game, it's definitely it's best played with the 6-button controller, if I'm being honest. So yeah, it is not your typical run and gun, but it's just such a cool game. It's super fun to fly around with your mech and with your car. And it's super clean. It's sick. I can truly go on. I can keep listing off a bunch of random words about how cool this game is. It's a bunch of synonyms. The graphics are super impressive in this game. There's this one level where you're in this like hallway, and in like the background, it looks like it's like 3D, and it looks super cool. It's super impressive for the Genesis. I was super blown away. There's also these like in-between cutscenes that have these cool 3D effects, and I don't know if they're as impressive as the one in that one level, but still looks pretty cool. This game is very hard though. I have not gotten super far in it. It's hard. You gotta be on your toes at all times in this one. There's a lot of stuff coming at you. It's a tough game, but it's fun. Now the next game I'm going to be talking about, I don't actually own because it goes for inhumane resale prices, which I guess rightfully so. It had a pretty limited print run. That game being Battlemania 2 for the Sega Mega Drive. This is a Japanese exclusive game. Battlemania 2 is a 2D side-scrolling shoot-'em-up game developed by Vic Tokai. Now, I don't know anything about Vic Tokai except for that they made the Battlemania games. This game is a sequel to Battlemania, obviously. And we actually did get Battlemania 1 over in North America. It was called Troubleshooter over here, and it came with this absolutely hideous box art. I mean, it's disgusting. For my thoughts on Battlemania 1, well, it's alright. It's a decent 2D scroller. It's alright. But it absolutely pales in comparison to Battlemania 2. Battlemania 2 is a really good game. The whole premise of this game is that you play as two girls side by side. You can switch angles if need be. Yeah, it's a very unique premise because at the time when it came to the shoot 'em up genre, a lot of games were just spaceship shooters, and now there is a market for that. I mean, there's some great spaceship shooters on the Genesis. But it's cool that there was a game that kind of broke that mold. But yeah, just everything in Battlemania 2 compared to the first game, it's so much more high quality. The graphics are beautiful in this game. I really think they are a huge step up from the original game. The original game's graphics, really, they're not that good in my opinion, but oh my god, dude. The graphics in this game are awesome. The music is just, it's really darn good. I really like the music in the like the second level of the game. Really like that one. Yeah, it's a super fun and upbeat game. It's really a shame that this game never got localized in North America. I mean, I don't see why they couldn't have. I mean, we got the first game. Why not localize the second one? I really don't get that because, man, like, we could have gotten this over here. But nonetheless, we have what we have. You can still play it, access it pretty well, easily by downloading the ROM. It's really easy to do that for Genesis games. For most games, honestly, but hey, go play this game. Here we have Castlevania Bloodlines, developed by, well, who else but Konami. Castlevania Bloodlines is, obviously, it's another game in the Castlevania series, but this one, it really doesn't get talked about as much compared to the NES and Super Nintendo game. Castlevania 1 and 3 are pretty darn good. I've never played 4 on the Super Nintendo, but, I've only played the NES ones, and Bloodlines, as someone who doesn't have a ton of experience with Castlevania, I really like Castlevania Bloodlines. It's a really, really underrated game, but you don't actually play as Simon Belmont in this one. You play as either John Morris or Eric, let me look at my notes here. Eric Lacarde, that's an interesting name, but I always just choose John Morris because he's got the whip, and I like the whip. It's more natural. There isn't a ton to say about this one. I really like the opening level music. That was great. The atmosphere is great. It's Castlevania, and it was Konami in the 90s, so it was probably going to be a pretty darn good game, and it truly was. This is a great one to get. Funny camera angle switch. Hey, you got to make things dynamic, but Rise Star for the Sega Genesis. This is like another one of my top favorite games for the Sega Genesis. Oh my gosh, this game is a masterpiece. Rise Star is a very late Genesis game. It came out like 1995. It was developed by Sega. I don't know which department at Sega. I couldn't really find much info on that. But a lot of the devs who worked on Rise Star would go on to work on Nights into Dreams. So it's semi-related to like Sonic Team. And Yuji Uekawa did the character design for Rise Star. He's most well known for redesigning Sonic during, for Sonic Adventure and all that. But this game is just, it is one of the greatest 2D platformers ever. It is one of the greatest Sega and Sega Genesis games ever. It's a shame this is the only Rise Star game that we ever got, but at the end of the day, you can't really top this. This is one of the greats. The gameplay loop of this game is incredibly unique. Maybe not incredibly unique, but it's very goofy and silly and fun. You play as the star. Yeah, Rise Star is a very strange character, honestly. Just look at him. He's a weird guy, but he uses his hands and he uses both of them to grab on enemies, and you just kill them that way. And that can be quite satisfying. You can also use it to grab onto ledges and do all kinds of crazy stuff. It's super unique and fun. The game controls pretty well. He's quite slow, all things considered, but it really works out for this type of game. It's so fun. And I mean, this game, in my opinion, has just aged flawlessly. This game, like, if you told me this was on a console that came out in 1989, I might have not believed you, but it did. It's beautiful. The game has so much color, like, it's so colorful. The sprite work is so incredibly detailed. Just, oh my gosh, the music is amazing in this game. I mean, if this game came out on the Super Nintendo, you wouldn't hear the end of it. People would be praising the hell out of it to this day. I mean, it just blows my mind that this game was even possible on the system that it was made for. Unfortunately, I've never beaten this game because the final boss is just the worst. Like that's really my only complaint with the game. The final boss is it's just such a drastic difficulty shift in comparison to the rest of the game, in my opinion. Now, I get it, it's a final boss, but there's no breathing room at all. It is a tough final boss that I just cannot beat. Other than that, this is a damn near flawless game. I love it. It's pretty long too. I'm rambling at this point. All I'm saying is Rystar is great, and you should definitely play it. It's pretty accessible. Play it, please. Here's a game that I've actually already covered on this channel. I made a whole video about it. This is McDonald's Treasureland Adventures. Now, when you see this game, you'd think like, wow, this is awful. This does not look good. But you would be wrong, because McDonald's Treasureland Adventures is actually a really good game. I mean, this game is shockingly good, but it's also not that surprising considering this game was developed by Treasure. This is, in fact, one of Treasure's more early games. It was developed right alongside Gunstar Heroes. And I bet you Treasure made a decent amount of money off this game. I mean, they had a freaking McDonald's license as one of their first games. Like, that's huge. I mean, they went so hard on this game for, the license to be freaking Grimace. It's so cool that they didn't care. They put their all into this game, and it's really, really good. Again, I already made a video about this, so go check that out if you'd like. I just wanted to bring it up in this video because this is indeed a Sega Genesis game that is quite nifty. Much like my other videos, it's pretty incoherent and I ramble a lot, much like this video. But in that one, I recorded the entire game in composite video because I didn't have a SCART cable at the time for my Genesis. So there's that. But here we have it now in RGB SCART. It is absolutely beautiful. Here's the last game I will be showing in this video. This is another Treasure game. This is Dynamite Headdy. This is a really, really fun game. This game is a 2D platformer where you play as a puppet. His name's Headdy, and he uses his head to defeat enemies. It's pretty darn cool. You can also use said head to grab onto higher levels, and it's very reminiscent of the Scarf ability in McDonald's Treasureland Adventures. So it's kind of cool that both these games have something in common. Clearly Dynamite Headdy wasn't like that gameplay mechanic was inspired by McDonald's Treasureland Adventures, which is pretty darn cool. Yeah, this game is it's super unique and weird and goofy. It has a whole toy theme going on. I mean, obviously, Headdy is a puppet, but there's just tons of crazy, wacky enemies. Again, the aesthetic of the game is just super cool. Yeah, overall, I mean, it's just a very high quality game, but it's pretty interesting because the Japanese and North American versions are a little different. The North American version completely removes all the cutscenes with dialogue. There's text cutscenes in the Japanese version. It was completely removed in the North American version. Thankfully, we have a translation for that, so you can load that up on an EverDrive or an emulator if you so please. This is cool. We have that. Wish we got the story in the North American version, but nonetheless, we didn't. It's a lot harder, the North American version. I don't know in what way it's harder, but it just is, from what I've heard. There's also some graphical changes as well, which are kind of strange, but either way, I mean, they're both, you know, great games. Either way, it really doesn't matter that much. This game isn't too expensive either, which is pretty awesome, I'm not gonna lie. I got this for maybe, what, like 20 bucks? I don't know if it's gone up in value, but it's a great game for cheap. And again, you can just emulate it if you want. You can do whatever you want. So yeah, those are some freaking Genesis games that, in my opinion, are quite nifty. Listen, there's more to the Sega Genesis than Sonic, I can assure you. There's a lot of really good games for this console. And just do your own research for games that you might like. There's a ton of other games, but here's just a sampler of some games that I really like for the system. And I definitely want to revisit this topic as well, because there's some other Genesis games that I do really want to talk about. And maybe I can talk about some even more like obscure games. I mean, most of these aren't that obscure, at least to me they aren't, but you know, some people they might be. But this video is really just to show you that the Genesis, listen, it's more than Sonic. You know, when most people think of the Genesis, they're like, oh, Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know, I think most people, just when they think of the Genesis, they think of crap like Echo the Dolphin, whatever. But listen, there's more to the Genesis than what meets the eye. So play the Genesis in whatever way you can.